I remember when my grandmother passed away, my uncle gave us a phone call
Hmm.
and he mimicked our answering machine. We had a song on our answering machine at the time and he sang a
I think it
song.
was "Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name?"
Yes, that was a song, but instead he said, "Hello, your grandmother's dead." Or how did it go? Something like that.
Hey, Gary and Wendy,
Yeah,
your grandmother's dead.
exactly. And he sang it. Do you believe that the household chores in our relationship are split evenly between the two of us?
I feel like now they are. They were not always. I feel like you did 99.9% of the chores
Okay.
when the kids were young. But I think you eventually were frustrated and you said, why is this happening? I'm working all these hours. I'm coming home and there's still chores for me to do. And it's not an excuse, but the facts are I was in a rut. I should have been at work, like I've mentioned before. And because I wasn't, it was very difficult to do the chores. I did not have structure. I needed structure.
It's almost as if your household has to be treated like an office place. For it to be fair in a relationship, it has to act like an office because in the beginning, I worked. And let's face it, 20 years ago, sometimes only one of the spouses worked.
Yes.
Nowadays, I feel like that's changed. But believe it or not, still only in 50% of households across America, only one spouse still works. Wouldn't you think that'd
That's
be
a
a little
low
high?
percentage.
Yeah, I would totally think that would be higher. But in those relationships, 30% of couples say that they have resentment because their spouse doesn't hold up their workload at the house. So I think there's something that has to be done. Now, you and I, we split everything up pretty fairly. Like,
Yes.
I know your job's the laundry. You know that my job, I pay the bills. You used to pay the bills, but then we were broke so that
That was a disaster.
I ended up taking that job over. I am the food shopper. Now, I can remember a story 20 years ago when I went food shopping. I was in line, and when I got up to the counter, the cashier said, "Are you a college student?" And I looked at her like, "No, what do you mean?" Well, she's like, "All these frozen dinners." And I go, "No, believe it or not, I actually am married and I have a wife. This is what we eat."
Yeah.
Because you weren't much of the cook at the time, although you
No.
have your certain meals that you do
Yeah.
plan. But I feel like right now we split up everything pretty evenly.
Yeah.
But there are some couples that don't feel like there's an even split. And I feel like something has to be done there. And maybe some type of job chart would be
A
helpful.
chart would be great because sometimes the one partner goes to work and works a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And they expect you to have dinner on the table, the laundry, and yes, they should. But sometimes you need a break. I think being a stay-at-home mom is one of the toughest jobs.
It's very difficult.
And it's not always rewarding. So to come home sometime and say, let me do the dishes, or on Saturday, I know it's my day off too, but take some time for you. I think that makes a huge difference, even if you're tired from work.
I think a lot of times, whoever's working, when they get home, they take for granted that because they worked all day, they felt like they did way more than their share, so
Yes.
they shouldn't have to do anything at home. But in reality, home is not easy.
No.
I think home is actually difficult. Many times you said to me, if you want, I'll go to work and I could be a stay-at-home mom, which I thought I would have been a great stay-at-home mom.
You wanted to do that so bad, and that's probably not to have regrets, but I should have made that move because I was better at work with purpose, and you were great with the kids.
Now, one of the reasons I brought this up is because one of your jobs is the family calendar.
Yes.
You're the big
Love it.
organizer. I feel like you've become a little bit short on that because one of the things you keep on the family calendar is birthdays. And I always feel like when it's my family's birthday, you don't remind me as often. Whenever it's your family's birthday, you're like, oh, we have to call them. We have to text them. It's so-and-so's birthday on my family. When it's my side, I don't always get that message. So then I feel like a stew-nod because I'm not wishing someone happy birthday on my side. So I just wanted to bring that up. I feel like you've been neglected.
That's a great point. I think one of the reasons is your sister reminds us when there's a birthday, we get a spam text who it is. Sometimes we don't even know who it is.
Yeah.
She's so good at that, and she will find people
Yes.
that we barely know. So I guess I feel like that leaves more room on the calendar for my family.
Okay. All right. Well, in my family, we have a tradition. When it's somebody's birthday, you call and sing happy
Yes.
birthday.
I thought that was my family's tradition. That's funny.
No, I think we started that.
Okay.
And then you adapted it from us. But so when it's our family's birthday, we sing happy birthday to them. And it's a nice thing to do. But how far down the family tree do you go to sing happy birthday? Now I
Right.
feel like I'm getting texts for second and third cousins. And I'm like, I never even talked to these people. Now I'm calling and singing happy birthday to them.
It's probably a nice thing, but it is a
It
lot of
is.
work.
With your family, do a job chart.
Yes.
If you don't feel, first of all, speak up. If you don't feel like your spouse is showing up and doing their part of the work, then you have to bring that up and maybe
Yes.
a job chart. Treat it like it's actually a job at your house because
Yes.
there is responsibilities. And if you split that up, I think that would make the relationship a lot better.
The best job that we do together is
Yes.
making these Bloody Marys.
Yes, we do. That is a job that we do together.
Yes. Working together is key too. Do it on
Yeah.
the weekends. If you need to clean or de-junk, put on music, have a little cocktail, and do it together for a couple hours. You can make it fun.
Without a doubt. And these Bloody Marys, they have a special relevance to the show today because it sort of goes along with our topic.
Yes. So my mom, who passed away, I'd say 20 years ago,
Yeah.
she was 66. She loved pizza.
Wait, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah.
That 66, why was that so difficult for us to figure out? I feel like you texted every one of your family
And
members.
everyone gave a different age.
Or they gave like a quiz question. Like they gave how many months it's been or how many years. And like we were
It was so
supposed to
confusing.
we were supposed to figure out the age. And if there's one thing that you and I aren't real good at, it's math.
Right.
And I just don't know why
We had
that was
three
so
different
difficult.
answers, but we think 66.
Yeah.
But she did love pizza and fries. That was her. She loved carby foods to begin with, but pizza and fries were definitely her favorites. And we grew up on Elio's Pizza as well as Pop-Tarts. So we put the Elio's Pizza and the nice boardwalk and seasoned fries. And this goes fantastic with, of course, our Tito's vodka, one of our smooth vodkas that we absolutely love. And this is something, again, super easy to make. You can do a virgin one for the kids and, you know, make it a fun Friday night dinner.
I think this is a great way to honor your mom on today's show.
Yes.
Having these Bloody Marys, and she loved the fries, loved the pizza. And this is just a fun Bloody to drink and eat, and it makes for a fantastic meal.
Yes.
The subject on today's podcast was a tough one to do because it's not a subject that people like to talk about, but it's very key to keeping a relationship together. And that is when there is a death in the family. It's not something that's expected. It's probably not something couples talk about. And it's certainly not something I enjoy talking about, but it's reality. And we have to give some examples of how that can help a marriage, even when someone passes away, to survive.
Well, I think that's a great point because you're uncomfortable with death and funerals.
I am.
And it brings us to funerals. My mom, when she passed years later, she taught our whole family a ton of lessons. And I think one was going to funerals. I don't think I'd be so into going to funerals if she didn't pass, because now if it crosses your mind, should I go to the funeral? I didn't really know the person. I don't know the family, but I knew them a little. Go. If it hits you for 1 second, don't second guess it, because those were the people that when my mom passed, I was in awe when they showed up. And my dad would always say, if you don't know someone at a funeral, and you could do the same if you go to a funeral, when we were greeting people, he would say, introduce yourself, who you are, how you knew the person. And you can do that at a funeral, and you may be uncomfortable, but it's not really about you. It's making the other people feel really good.
I always feel awkward
You do.
going to funeral because I feel like I never know what to say. But one thing that you always do is you'll always tell a story to whoever's in line in the procession. You always tell a story of that person that passed away and how it relates, whether you knew them from work, whether you knew them from childhood, whatever it is. And those stories bring back memories that I think that people feel very good about. Now, I know a guy who goes to just about every funeral there is out there. I mean, this guy reads the obituaries every single day.
Yes.
And even if he just went to second grade,
Yeah, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, he does that.
Yeah,
And it's
even-
a kind thing, but
it is.
he does it religiously.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, you said even if they were on his kickball team 25
Yes.
years ago, he's like, oh my gosh, I remember him. And he goes to the funeral. And I
Yes.
think that's admirable.
It is.
People grieve in different ways as well. I remember when my grandmother passed away, my uncle gave us a phone call
Mhm.
and he mimicked our answering machine. We had a song on our answering machine at the time and he sang a song.
I think it was, hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name?
Yes, that was the song. But instead he said, hello, your grandmother's dead. Or how did it go? Something like that.
Hey, Gary and Wendy,
Yeah.
your grandmother's dead.
Exactly. And he sang it. It was kind of a funny
It
little
was humor
way.
to him. That's how he dealt with it.
Yes.
It's fine. And we've learned not to judge people how they grieve because it's easy to say, shouldn't they be doing this? Shouldn't they be doing that? No, everyone can grieve and we have to try to support them how they're grieving.
That grieving that really can cause a strain on a relationship.
Yes.
And one couple who had a son tragically pass away, country singer star Granger Smith, has a great story.
I remember being at the hospital and that doctor came and said, there's no chance of survival. He's not going to make it. We need to know from you two when to unplug the machine. So we decided to take a walk. We went out to this little serenity garden in the hospital, my wife and I, and we're going to decide that was where we are going to talk about when to unplug it and kind of talk about how we're going to say goodbye. And to each other, it just kind of occurred to me in that moment that what you said, that statistic, we're probably not going to make it. The world odds are against us. And so I told Amber right then, I just said, probably the most unromantic conversation ever. I said, let's make a deal. We're going to stay together. Like, let's shake on it right now. Yeah. Let's do this for our family, for our kids. We separate. It's going to just make one more thing piled on for the kids to have to deal with. Let's make an agreement right here in this garden. Let's stay together. And she was like, agreed.
They made a decision to stay together no matter what during the most critical time, which is so incredible.
And it's that time when someone passes away that a lot of relationships, when there is a close death in the family, that relationships don't make it.
No, there can be a big strain.
Because one of the couples, one of the spouses doesn't know how to relate to the other. And let's face it, it changes a person. Your mother passed away 20 years ago. And because of that, it changed you. There was nothing about it that you can say that didn't change you. And there was a lot going on at the time. First of all, it was a big change for our lifestyle when she was sick.
Yes. Well, we had very small children at the time, and you really stepped up. And I felt like I was in a coma. I was probably on meds. I was very out of it. It was one of the hardest times of my life. And if you didn't step up, I don't know. It would have just definitely have been very difficult with the kids. So it's a good idea if you don't have a plan, try to be compassionate. If somebody passes and you're the one that's going to work, maybe you could take a leave for a little bit and help out with the kids if you have kids, or just be extra supportive and spend extra time. And it may not be talking. It may be just being quiet, being there, doing just nice gestures for that person.
You have to be supportive.
Yeah.
So there were times that I would step up because you would be going to the hospital for hours. I'd get home.
Shifts. I believe my siblings and I and my niece would take shifts to relieve my dad.
Yeah. And I'd get home from work and right away you would hand me the kids and you'd go off. So obviously I had more responsibility, but I saw that need for you being there for your mom.
Yes.
And you had to be. So you have to step up. There's sacrifices that you have to make in a relationship, especially when someone passes away. You have to understand what that other person is going through. That is key. Now, your mom, when she passed away, it brought us a lot of lessons that we can learn.
The lessons are unreal, but you don't get them right away. So just pay attention because they're there, and it may take quite a few years, but then you're going to say, there's a reason they left to give me these lessons, and you can live life so differently. And I remember,
and sometimes the lessons don't always happen when your parent was alive.
No.
Or the person was alive.
You ignore them. You take them for granted.
You totally do, which brings me to the point where I always say, and I need to work on this so much more, is spend more time with your parents.
Yes.
Spend more time with the elderly. They're not going to be around forever. I do not do a good job at that. I usually make excuses. My parents live a little bit of a distance away, and for me to get there, and I feel very guilty about that. And I know it's something you always tell me. You always say, let's go to your parents. We've got to do this. And then there's always something going on. But again, they're not going to be around forever. And those lessons that they're subtly telling you now, you're probably not going to be doing those. But when they pass away, that's when those lessons hit you hard.
Yes. I remember also when my mom was dying, my dad said to her, Sue, give us a sign that you're okay, like a flickering of a light. And that was really neat. So if you have someone that's not doing well, that's sick, you could have these conversations. And now we see flickering all the time. My whole family does. We saw it at Shiva right after she passed. And you know that they're still with you. And it makes you feel good that they're still a part of you.
It's wonderful. And every time I'll go by a garden and I'll think of your mom because she was always out there. She had a really good green thumb and she was always working in the garden.
I think she was pruning when she was on hospice. And my friend said, I thought your mom was on hospice. I saw her out there pruning.
Yeah, that was unbelievable because that's something she loved to do. Now, you never got that green thumb.
No, not so much. My sister took that gene.
Every time I see a light flicker, I automatically think of your mother. And that is such a cool thing in remembrance of her that happens. But there's some great lessons too that your siblings all learned from your mom that you are putting into effect.
Yes. So my mom and dad were very involved and started Big Brother, Big Sister in Cumberland County. And now my sister is super involved and my brother is as well. And my other brother did something neat before COVID. He would transport parents of the children that were in the Ronald McDonald House from the airport to the kids, which is sort of cool because you're not in a good headspace. You have someone picking you up, bringing you to the Ronald McDonald House. I thought that was really neat. And I always thought of my mom. And it's neat to say to people, if they've lost a mother, a father, a really close family member, you know, your mother would be proud of you. It makes them feel good. It makes you feel like she's still around.
Yeah.
And I also think getting back to birthdays, that a cool thing to do is remind the people that lost someone dear to them that you didn't forget. A year later, 2 years later, on their anniversary, just say, I'm thinking about you, a simple text, a call, a note. It makes people feel like you never forgot. I think that date is more important than birthdays.
It definitely is. And also, too, what's really cool about remembering 6 to 12 months later is at the time someone passes, you're numb. You're not thinking about it. But in those 6 to 12 months later, that's when it comes up. And that's when you really start to feel the heartache of someone passing away. And that's really cool. What you do is when you reach out, you'll send a text to someone, hey, your mother passed away. I just want you to know I used to have so much fun with her. We'd see her on her bike ride. Or you'd always bring up, once again, a great memory that they could instill in their head. And that would make them happy.
And if you didn't know them well, the person that passed, you can always just say, thinking of you today. Hope you find peace.
And another lesson that you learned too from your mom is how you go to people and visit them a lot. Elderly that are sick or dying, or that people, just elderly people in general, you'll visit a lot now.
My mom was good like that.
She was. And that's just another thing.
She would always include people that were alone on holidays.
Yes, she would. Again, this was not an easy podcast to do because anytime you're talking about death, it's an uncomfortable subject. But if you can get the lessons, especially for a relationship, because when death happens, it's very difficult. And if you and your spouse can say to each other, listen, no matter what happens, we're going to stay together, that is so crucial to keeping that relationship strong.
That's a great point. And I think also don't have guilt. A lot of us have guilt after someone passes. We may say to ourselves, I should have said this. I should have spent more time. We had so many arguments. Instead of doing that, say to yourself, I did the best that I could during that stage of my life. I am going to be kind to myself, but I will help others when they're in these situations and help guide them to spend more time and say certain things. That's how you could feel peace.
Don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube. And you can check us out too on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And also, When Gary Met Wendy on TikTok, we have some great little shorts I think you'll enjoy.
We'd like to make a toast. This is for you, Sue, for all the lessons. We miss you. Ma.